This is Kenny from PK Football. I'm sitting alongside here with Peyton. We're going to be doing a mock draft today. We're sitting here with the number 3 pick, and Peyton's going to tell us what we're thinking about doing with the number 3 pick right now.
See, I really like the number 3 pick, Kenny. If I was in a 10-team league, I would prefer 1 through 4 or even 9th or 10th. But since we have 3, my top 3 running backs right now are Le'Veon Bell, Adrian Peterson, and Jamal Charles, not in any order particularly. What about you?
In my order, I got to go AP. Number 1 is, he's coming back. Yeah, he had that dispute. Only played 1 game last year. Pretty disappointing for anybody that picked him number 1. I'm sure a lot of people did. But you got to go AP number 1, I think. Le'Veon Bell, the 2-game suspension, yeah, he could still be the top running back, but I don't know if I can afford sitting him for those first 2 weeks. You could pair him up, handcuff him with D'Angelo Williams, who's the number 2 back, but you don't even know if Dre Archer, who looked good in that Hall of Fame game, could be getting some of the carries in those first 2 games.
Well, and the advantage of picking Le'Veon Bell is you tank your first game and get that golden gem off of the waiver wire that no one else gets, and then it's a free ride to the Super Bowl.
Yep. And that golden gem last year, Justin Forsett definitely was one of the top picks off the waiver wire last year.
Mike Evans
was a huge pick off the waiver wire. But I think if we can get AP at number 3, that's the ideal situation for me. Obviously, I don't think we're going to be able to get Le'Veon. I have AP above Eddie Lacy and Jamal Charles for sure. So hopefully we're sending AP here at number 3.
We're hoping there's a Green Bay fan in here taking Eddie Lacy number 1 or 2.
Yep. Eddie Lacy's a good pick, don't get me wrong. He's going to be good over there in Green Bay. Green Bay's offense is obviously going to be the scariest this year. They've got Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams. They drafted Ty Montgomery, who's been looking good in preseason. They've got Richard Rodgers, who's been looking good in preseason, in the OTAs and everything. And then, obviously, Aaron Rodgers, the best quarterback in the game right now. Debatably, obviously. I didn't mean to offend anybody there, but...
No, I agree. And fantasy-wise, he's got to be he's the most reliable, and you just feel like he's, automatic up there. He's got, in my opinion, it goes A-Rod, Andrew Luck, and then Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, number 3, huh?
I put him number 3 over Peyton Manning and Drew Brees.
I just worry that he's not going to get enough throws.
Yeah, but last year he had 800 rushing yards.
Sure.
All right, let's see who goes number 1 right here. And it's Adrian Peterson.
All right. Well, we're not going to get to do our plan there, but that leaves us with either Le'Veon Bell or
Jamal Charles or Eddie Lacy.
Yes.
And that's an easy pick for us. We're going to go ahead and take Le'Veon Bell right here, which means in the later rounds we have to make sure we handcuff with D'Angelo Williams.
Le'Veon Bell, number 1 pick. At number 3, great pick. Have to sit him for the first 2 games, but that handcuff's going to be good, and even if we do lose that first week, we can get a good waiver wire pickup off of that first week because not everybody knows who's going to be showing out that first week.
I agree. So now we got to wait till the 18th pick, and we're likely going to end up drafting someone like Odell Beckham, Julio Jones. Preferably, I'd take Julio Jones over Odell, but it's hard to sleep on Odell with his 12 games played last year, 91 catches,
12 touchdowns.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah. And this tier of receivers here in the second round, really, you just got to pick who you got to go with.
It's preference.
You can't go by stats. Demaryius Thomas,
Jordy Nelson picked number 7. That's really early for him.
That's way too early for Jordy Nelson. Aaron Rodgers at 5. I'm not a super fan of that pick, but you can't blame it. You can't blame picking a safe, good quarterback in the first round.
You can't blame Jordy Nelson over Antonio Brown and Matt Forte, Demaryius Thomas.
We got a Green Bay fan right here. Team Corzum.
That's crazy.
Come on, Mario. You're better than that. All right.
What do you think about C.J. Anderson this year?
All right. C.J. Anderson. Gary Kubiak, new head coach over there in Denver. Obviously, he's big on running the ball. He's been big on the running ball in Houston. With Baltimore, obviously, I'm a huge Baltimore fan, and I loved him with Justin Forsett. He turned Justin Forsett, who was a nobody for the longest time, into a good running back, and I'm looking forward for him to bounce back this year. But C.J. Anderson, I feel like he and Monty Ball are going to be battling this year. As of right now, C.J. Anderson is the number 1 bell cow back for Gary Kubiak, and Monty Ball is scheduled to get 7 to 8 touches per game, but I can see that evening out throughout the years, or even Monty surpassing that, because I feel like Monty has the more upside as the running back.
I agree. I feel like C.J. Anderson's the more polished back right now just because of experience, but I believe Monty Ball has a lot more potential, and I agree with within the first 4 or 5 games, that could be a very potential passing
Yeah, for sure.
passing of the baton between C.J. Anderson and Monty Ball.
Yep.
Matt Forte's still there.
If you can grab
Wouldn't
Matt,
that be something to grab him at 18?
there he goes at 12. 12, Matt Forte, great pick. I would not take DeMarco Murray or LaShawn McCoy over Matt Forte.
Especially in a PPR league.
And they're both on new teams. You don't know how they're going to do. They're both good running backs. Don't get me wrong, DeMarco and LaShawn. But new teams, new coordinator, new system. You don't know. DeMarco had the best offensive line in the game last year. Debatably in the past 10 years, Cowboys' offensive line only got better this year.
And I'm not taking Rob Gronkowski anywhere before the 3rd round.
Right, yeah. You can't go tight end that early, especially with the running backs being so weak. And then the quality of receiver that you can get in that 2nd round is just... You can't pass up on that.
I agree with that pick. Des Bryant over Odell and Julio,
Yeah.
Calvin. I mean, that's just such an amazing tier of receivers. You really can't be mad about any of them.
Right. It looks like we're either going to grab Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson, or A.J. Green here with this 18th pick.
And I think we got to go Julio out of those 3 if it's available.
I'm
now we got to go. I mean, it's really a toss-up. I think A.J. Green's going to have a very good year, but it's hard to pass on Calvin Johnson, who's been the number 1 man.
Yep. Calvin Johnson, obviously, he's broke records. He's definitely debatably going to be a Hall of Famer, so you have to go Calvin Johnson here.
I agree.
All right, coming up in the next 5 picks at 23rd, we got T.Y. Hilton, Mark Ingram, Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck would be a great pick at 23. We got our number 1 running back. We got our number 1 receiver.
Get our high-quality quarterback right here.
Yeah.
There goes Jeremy Hill. I don't agree with that pick. I really
At
don't.
19, you can't take Jeremy Hill that early just because we don't know Gio's coming back healthy. Gio was the starter
there
before
goes
Jeremy
Andrew.
came. Andrew Luck at
See, but
21.
now we're in the 3rd round and Gronkowski's still there. We might be able to take him 23rd pick.
Yes, at 23rd, Gronk's. That's a great pick. Brady is out for the first 4 games, but Jimmy Garoppolo or whatever his name is, he's
Garoppolo.
and
And there goes Gronkowski. So now we have the option between Alshon Jeffrey, Mike Evans, and Emmanuel Sanders. I really think we got to go Emmanuel Sanders in our PPR league, man. He had 101 receptions last year, 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns. I mean, that's just a great year for a number 2 receiver. But it's hard to pass up on Mike Evans it's just he's got a rookie quarterback, but I feel like he could get in Jameis Winston's.
Right. I agree with you on Emmanuel Sanders here just because another thing, Julius Thomas is not on the team. He's in Jacksonville right now. Emmanuel scored 192 points last year, and if you look at it, that's even more than T.Y. Hilton, Mike Evans even
And T.Y. Hilton had a great year last year.
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton was definitely a great, and the thing with T.Y. Hilton, too, is he's got a huge committee coming in. He's got Philip Dorsett, who says they can be a number 1 receiver coming, like, in these later years coming on. They got Andre Johnson, obviously. He's been a machine for Houston. He's been tired of that situation, Houston not having a quarterback to throw. Now he's debatably got one of the best in the game to throw to him, and he's definitely going to have a good year, I feel like, Andre Johnson.
I agree. What do you think about Mark Ingram this year with C.J. Spiller and Kyrie Robinson in the backfield? They're going to be a lot more run heavy this year just because of the loss of Jimmy Graham and who's the other receiver they lost?
Do they still have Colston?
Yes, they have Colston and Brandon Cooks, which I mean it's not.
Kenny Stills.
Kenny Stills, that's correct.
He's in Miami now. Yeah. Yeah.
So they're definitely going to run a lot more, bringing in C.J. Spiller, but I just feel like it could be a run by committee thing right there, where Mark Ingram takes the 1st and 2nd down backs, and C.J. Spiller is definitely going to have the 3rd down backs just because of the pass catching ability he has.
For sure. I definitely agree with that, and I have no idea what's going on down there in New Orleans. I feel like they're about to be in a rebuilding year. I feel like that division is the Atlanta Falcons division to lose. I feel like they've got everything they need to do, and the only 2 players that I think that I would draft from New Orleans is Brandon Cooks and Drew Brees, obviously, just because Drew Brees is Drew Brees. He's going to throw a lot. He's going to complete passes, even no matter who he's throwing to.
I agree, but I feel like if in a PPR league, if you can get C.J. Spiller in the late 6th, 7th, 8th round, I feel like that's a great pick to put on your bench just because you never know what's happened. Mark Ingram's very injury-prone. So is C.J. Spiller, but in a PPR league, C.J. Spiller is a lot of times gold in Buffalo.
Yep, definitely. All right, so our team right now, we're looking at running back. We got Le'Veon Bell, Calvin Johnson, and Emmanuel Sanders are our 2 receivers. We're looking to get a good running back here because the running backs are definitely thin this year.
If Forsett falls to us, we have to take him. If not, in my opinion, I'm thinking about Frank Gore or Andre Ellington this year. although Andre Ellington is a good pick right now. See, he's all the way down here, but he's got more points than everybody else, 161. And I know projections don't mean that much, but he's in a PPR league. He's a pass catching back. He averaged 10 points last year, and if Chris Johnson doesn't
Sign with Arizona, yeah.
I think he's a really good pick this year especially for like a flex or a number 2.
Right, and you got to think he was battling that ankle injury all year last year. He wasn't like as quick in his cuts. All right, Justin Forsett just went at 36. I was hoping to grab him at 38.
So now you got to start thinking about a tight end and a quarterback here because there's Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham left. I love Drew Brees just because of how much they throw, and I mean he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. And Jimmy Graham over there with Seattle, he's the first target. I mean, he's the first target they've had in a long time where they can rely on like just big plays. And although there he went, now I mean we've got Russell Wilson there. This is a tough pick right here.
Yeah, this is we're definitely gonna have to debate.
It's one of the toughest. The 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds are the toughest rounds by far.
Also, though, is where you're going to win your draft. Obviously, you got to have a good 1st and 2nd pick, but you're going to find that 3rd, 4th, 5th round. That's where you're going to win your draft.
Todd Gurley's a good pick too, right here, just because of how Seattle runs the ball so heavily.
St. Louis, yeah,
St. Louis. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm thinking. What do you think here? We got 10 seconds.
I don't know, man. I think we might have to go Russell Wilson.
I think Russell Wilson's a good pick. Just signed that new contract. He's got something to prove.
I agree. And we needed a quarterback to fill. I mean, a rushing quarterback's always good because inside the red zone, even though they have Marshawn Lynch, you saw what happened last year. They're not always going to run the ball.
Right, those read options. I mean, everybody's bunching the box from Marshawn. You got 8 people in the box, and it leaves nobody to get Russell Wilson on the outside.
So now we have a quarterback, a running back, 1 and 2 receivers. Our top priority as of now is our 2nd running back. And then we probably need to go to flex because the tight ends are all going to go in the late 8th round right now. So we gotta concentrate on getting our running back, flex, and bench players, and then we'll go to flex, defense. In my opinion, you always draft a kicker last round because I mean they don't make that big of a difference.
And you can bounce kickers around. You can play matchups with that.
Same thing with defenses. If you don't get the top 3 defenses, if they're going too early for your liking, which in my opinion the top 3 this year are going to be Seattle is number 1, obviously.
Right.
The Buffalo Bills is number 2, and the Texans is number 3.
And Miami's up there too, but
I agree.
Yeah, but definitely those are the top 3 for sure.
In Miami, you can get really late, 2nd to last round. They're falling because of how they're projected.
Right. Yeah.
People like to look at projections.
Yeah, and do not be a projection bitch, guys. You cannot fall to projections. Yeah, like the numbers look good. Yeah, you maybe projected 151 points that week, but last year I played somebody in the semifinals, projected 141 points, and he ended up scoring 61. His team completely shit himself, and I ended up winning my league last year. Just had to throw that in. But as for tight ends, though, I'm going to say something real quick. You got tight ends going real late. You got Travis Kelce. You've got Julius Thomas. He's not even on this. He's not even. Where is Julius Thomas?
Jordan Cameron also a year and a half ago he was showing out in Cleveland until they got in a big quarterback dispute there. He's very talented, and I think in Miami, with Charles Clay leaving and going to Buffalo, I think he's going to be a very good pick late.
Yes, definitely.
There's a lot of tight ends you can pick.
So round 5. We're sitting here looking at we need a running back. We definitely need a running back. I'm not
Jonathan Stewart. I mean, he's the starter in Carolina, but he's just not very proven.
There's no upside there. Latavius Murray showed a few things last year, but he's in Oakland.
Jaquie Bell.
Honestly, I'm looking
at Andre Ellington.
You gotta go Andre Ellington here,
just because of the team he's on and the pass catching ability.
Yeah. Now Joseph Randle in Dallas. The Dallas running back situation is tough. Obviously, Darren McFadden can't stay healthy to save his life. He's already hurt, got a hamstring injury, and it's already preseason. Joseph Randle, obviously not the most safe player as he robbed that mall last year, but the Cowboys, whoever running back they throw back there is going to be producing because they have that great wall of Cowboys.
Very good offensive line, and me being a Cowboys fan, I'll say that every day.
Yeah, definitely.
I really don't believe there's a better offensive line and that's why I think Dez is going to be such a good pick this year because Tony Romo's going to have endless amounts of time back there, and Tony Romo's a good quarterback, but it doesn't matter if you put somebody like Matthew Stafford back there or I mean, not saying that Matthew Stafford's not a good quarterback,
Right.
but he would have time for days throwing.
Yep.
Like, it's hard to fail back there when you have that much time.
Yep.
And especially being the scrambler that Tony Romo is.
Yes. Tony Romo, I don't know how he does it. Not very fast, but he is one of the most elusive quarterbacks in that pocket. That one play last year with J.J. Watt coming at him on the blind side, coming at 100 mile an hour, does the spin move, throws it deep. I think it was Terrence Williams for the touchdown.
Terrence Williams.
Yep. That was ridiculous.
So what do you think about Brandon Marshall this year, Kenny?
All right. Brandon Marshall. As we all know, Geno got punched in the face yesterday. I don't know how he managed to do that. $600. I mean, we're talking about NFL players
Childish.
fighting over $600.
And it's not really the money side of it, and I think it's more about the pride for them.
The principle, yeah.
Yeah, it's the principle.
Definitely.
But it could have been resolved in a different way.
Right.
I think it was Geno's fault for getting in that man's face, and that man's not going to just lay down with his teammates looking at him.
No. And as for Brandon, in my opinion, and I know you have a different opinion than me, I think he would have been better with Geno because they've been living together in the offseason. They've been meshing. Geno the other day in a practice game threw 5 touchdowns, 3 of which were to Brandon Marshall. But then you have the Amish rifle coming in, Fitzmagic, whatever you want to call him. He's got a track record of like just being mediocre, but he throws touchdowns. I mean, he's not the worst, and Geno definitely has proven that he can make some mistakes.
All right, so we've got our pick right here. We need a flex player. And what I'm looking at right now is Mike Wallace, Brandon Marshall, LeGarrette Blount, and Chris Ivory.
Yeah.
I think that's our options right now. And Chris Ivory being the running back in New York, he's the number 1 with the Amish rifle coming in. Ryan Fitzpatrick, that could be a very good option. He's going to get the ball a lot. LeGarrette Blount's suspended for a game, but he's going to get the ball a lot. The only problem with him is Coach Belichick tends to switch running backs very often. And I really think you got to have a running back in your flex, so let's go ahead and take Chris Ivory right here.
I agree with that. Chris Johnson is out of there, and that's another thing with the Geno injury. They have no idea like how good Amish Rival is going to be. They've got those 2 decent receivers in Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker, but I mean, Jets have always ran the ball. They've relied on their defense. I feel like we got to stick with Chris Ivory here. I mean, it's not the best pick,
but we'll probably end up getting Brandon Marshall and Mike Wallace as well, which we can switch out in our flex.
Right. I'm looking at Jarvis Landry here, too, at 68. Jarvis Landry, I think he's going to be the number 1 down there in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if
he's got a lot more reliable quarterback than both Mike Wallace and Brandon Marshall. But
Yes.
Brandon Marshall just went. We might go Jarvis Landry. It's a very good pick. You really can't go wrong with Mike Wallace either, though. I think Teddy's going to have a great year with Adrian in the backfield. He's got a good tight end in Kyle Rudolph, big target. That's another tight end you could take late.
Kyle Rudolph, definitely, yes. Even
out of 5 completions, he had 2 of them from Teddy in the Hall of Fame game.
Yep.
So he's already emerging as one of his favorite targets.
Yep, and those young quarterbacks love their tight ends. I'm actually big on Zach Ertz this year. Sam Bradford's going to be throwing to him. They don't really have that number 1 receiver, so that's another tight end that we can get. So we're not necessarily worried about tight ends. We're going to fill up that depth here. I think we got to either go Mike Wallace here or
we could always go Nelson Aguilar, but I think we've got to go with and Doug Martin down here as a running back.
All right, here's what we got to consider. Do you think we can take Julius at 78 or Travis Kelce at 78? Because if we can, then that's where we build Mike Wallace or Jarvis here.
I think we got to go Jarvis.
I agree with that.
I think we can get one of those tight ends late.
And you got to think about it. That's a number 1 receiver on a team that's emerging. You've got that whole division.
And we've got the risky flex right there in Chris Ivory, so we definitely had to do that.
Yes. And that whole division over there, the Patriots, I mean, the starting quarterbacks over there right now are that, what's his name, Jimmy Garoppolo, and then you've got Ryan Tannehill starting. You've got Fitzmagic now, and then also you've got who's starting in Buffalo right now. I think it's Matt Castle. Matt Castle's listed, but
it's a really weird division right now.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to be not. I don't see the Patriots dominating it as like they've used to, especially with the Bills on the rise. They're looking good. The Dolphins on the rise, and even the Jets. They've improved their defense a lot and stuff. All right, here's where we're gonna get.
See, all right, one quick question for you, Kenny. Alfred Blue is going to be the starting running back in Houston right now. Doug Martin's the starter in Tampa. Who do you take if you're down there? If we get, I mean, we're going to take obviously Julius Thomas or Travis Kelce in the 78th pick, but we're going to have 4 picks down from that. We'll probably be able to take one of those two. What's your opinion on that?
All right, I think you have to go with Doug Martin here. Doug Martin has showed in his rookie year that he was a really good running back. Got hurt. Then that whole Tampa Bay team was in shambles, didn't know who their quarterback was and stuff. As for Alfred Blue has had opportunity to come in and be good behind Arian Foster, and I only can think of one game where he's come in and rushed for 100 yards. He's gotten opportunities, but he hasn't proven himself to me.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't do bad last year, and I think you're right. There's just a lot more potential in Tampa Bay with Doug Martin than there is in Houston with Alfred Blue. And they're not going to rely on Alfred. They're not going to be trying to coach him up as much as they will Doug Martin because they know they have Arian Foster.
Yeah. All right, so we're sitting here looking. If we look at the top here, a lot of people are on auto pick. Obviously, this is mock drafts. People are just doing the first few rounds.
There goes Travis.
Put their phones down, stuff like that. So obviously, we're going to get a better team than when we draft with actual people that we're competing against for the money that we are. So, I mean, we're just going to keep talking about the players and stuff. So don't be like, oh, they're drafting against mock draft people. They're on auto pick. But we're just doing this to talk about some players, see what we think's the best available and stuff. So, all right, coming up.
Looks like we're going to be able to get Julius Thomas here.
Yeah, Julius Thomas. They say, where's he at? Is he already gone? Did we miss him?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Julius at 65. All right.
So now, in my opinion, we wait for Jordan Cameron on the Miami Dolphins. But what do we do here? I
think we got to take the best player available here.
Which would have to be Doug, right?
I think Doug Martin. You cannot have enough running backs. We've got 3 running backs on our team. Chris Ivy, Doug Martin. They have the upside, but they also have that huge downside where they can just be duds, and then we drop them by week 2. So we got to make sure that we have running back depth because you can't have enough. One thing I was going to say, though, about the Jordan Cameron, we do have Jarvis Landry in case we do want to play him.
True.
We don't want to have 2 big targets, but I'm not saying that we're always going to be playing both of those. Let's just look here at the tight ends that are available for us right now.
I don't like Dwayne Allen this year just because of Colby Fleener.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to be running a lot of 2 tight end sets.
There's way too many people to throw to over there. Delaney Walker. Delaney Walker ended up winning me some big games down the road last year. He actually put up some pretty big numbers. He scored 105 points. If you compare that to Jason Witten, that's more than Jason Witten even scored.
I like Zach Ertz a lot this year just because of Sam Bradford's there. They lost Deshaun Jackson, obviously, from a couple years ago, and they lost Jeremy Maclin last year.
Right.
I feel like and they've been talking about how he's going to get a lot more targets this year, and Brent Selleck is the blocking tight end, so he's not going to. I mean, he's going to have.
Right. And they say that Zach Ertz was on the field for 50% of the snaps last year. They said they're upping that to at least 75. Zach Ertz, in that last game he played, I think he had something like 16 catches. I may be wrong on that, but he definitely had a good end of the year, and I think that's what we got to go next.
I think we have to because he's not going to be there in our 99th pick, 98th.
And as for the other tight ends, like
Larry Donnell, he has a lot of potential, but
Eli Manning,
it's just not there yet.
Yeah, and then you got to think Victor Cruz coming back, Ruben Randall coming back, and also you've got obviously Odell Beckham Jr.
We always have Kyle Rudolph down there. Owen Daniels in Denver with Peyton Manning throwing to him. It's not a bad pick. He's just really old.
Yeah. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, they say he's going to be good, but I haven't seen anything from him.
It's not worth with all the other people.
No, so we're going to go Zach Ertz here. All right, so we get to auto pick a little bit for a while. Going to see a lot of these top players go. As of right now, we're looking at our team. Obviously, we're not going to go defense or kicker here just because they're so wishy-washy, and that's not how you're going to win your league. You're not going to win your league with the defense or a kicker. So we're going to look to fill that bench, look for some high upside players, maybe some rookies that coming in. I'm looking at right now Brashad Perryman. Obviously, being a Baltimore fan, I'm big on him, but they say that he's got high upside. A lot of people are saying that he could be the number 1 even over Steve eventually if he can get rid of that dropping problem that he's got.
See, right now I'm looking at Devontae Freeman in Atlanta. It's between him and Tavon Coleman. I think Devontae Freeman, he's the smaller back of the two, but I think he's got a lot more upside with with the speed aspect of it and the pass catching ability.
Yes.
Matt Ryan's a big passer, and they fortified their offensive line a little bit in this draft. I feel like he is going to emerge as the big boy in there.
Definitely, and to think that we can possibly get the number one running back for Atlanta in the 10th round is going to be huge. You got to take that into account. If you're taking the number one player for any team, obviously they're going to produce more than the number two player for a lot of teams. So you got to think about that. Devontae Freeman, great pick here. Like I said, can't have enough running backs. So that's what we're looking at right now.
I also like Michael Floyd in Arizona. Obviously, Fitz is the big man there. He's the number one. But I think Michael Floyd's going to put up the number one numbers this year.
Yeah.
Just because of the talent and the age difference there.
Right.
Especially with Carson Palmer back.
Yes. But don't forget about Lil John Brown.
Lil John Brown, he's a good little player.
He made some great catches last year. They say he's looking really good in OTAs. I don't know, but it looks like we're going to be able to grab Devontae Freeman here. Got him right there. All right, so now we're getting to the deeper part of the draft. This is where you can get those sleeper high upside players. Yeah, you mean...
This is where you win your draft.
Yes.
Because one of these players is going to go off. You just got to make sure. I mean, can't really make sure, but you got to hopefully get the right one. I'm liking Monty Ball down here because I feel like he's going to take the position. But with if Michael Floyd's still there, it's going to be hard to pass him.
Yep, definitely.
Marquise Colston's always there too. He's the number.
Debatably the number one, probably the number two with Brandon Cooks emerging. Obviously, Brandon Cooks has been getting drafted in the 4th and 5th round of most mock drafts that we've been doing. A lot of upside there. Obviously, Jimmy's gone. You got Drew Brees throwing to him. You can't go wrong with that. We got to make sure we get that pair of D'Angelo Williams. I think we got to go ahead and do that right now because we got a lot of auto picks coming up. And he probably won't be there at 118, so we're going to go ahead and handcuff that for those first 2 weeks. That Pittsburgh, I hate drafting Pittsburgh players. Huge Baltimore fan over here, but, I mean, you can't go wrong with Le'Veon Bell. So.
See, I like this part of the draft right here because we got Monty Ball, Percy Harvin, Kendall Wright, Steve Smith. I mean, that's 3 number ones, right? Well, Percy Harvin's a slot receiver, but we've got Kendall Wright, Steve Smith are both number one receivers for their teams. Monty Ball is going to be emerging number one in my opinion. Percy Harvin's a great pick, except for the quarterback situation there. There's just a lot of options right now to put. I mean, these are bench players. It's great bench players.
Yeah. And then we also got to think about getting that second quarterback. A lot of people don't like to draft a second quarterback, but if you can able to get like a Tony Romo that just have on your bench, I mean, that's huge to have Tony Romo on your bench. Although he just went, but I've just seen him been slept on a lot. He's just, I mean, he's Tony Romo. I mean, I think he was like number 5 in fantasy last year, and not many people even had him. So, all right. So we got 118.
Looks like we're going to be able to get Percy, Kendall, or Steve right here in 118.
Right.
That's ideal.
And Steve just recently announced that it's going to be his last season playing. He's also said that he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder.
As he always does. He's got a 2x4 on his shoulder.
Yeah,
a
little bit more than a chip. He's got this huge, Steve Smith's got the biggest head in the NFL, but he's
one of the funnest players to watch, in my opinion.
Definitely. He goes out there and plays hard, and he's only listed at 5'8". I think he's got the most receiving yards for any player listed under 5'8", so obviously he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And Steve Smith's going to go out there and hurt somebody in his final year. So that's who I'm looking at right here.
I like Kendall Wright a lot, too, just because of he's got a new quarterback there. He's the number 1. True. But I think we definitely got to go with the safe pick and Steve Smith.
Yeah. And Flacco over Mariota for right now.
Right.
Obviously, Flacco's an elite quarterback, in my opinion. Obviously, it's the most biggest debate in the Republican debate the other day. There was a sign somebody was holding up. Is Flacco an elite quarterback for no reason? All right, so we got 4 picks left. Let's see here. Jordan.
I think we got to go with Bills defense right here. It's a great pick in the 13th round.
Yeah, Bills defense is.
It doesn't make that great of a difference, but to have a defense like that, I mean, it's just you're not going to be switching around in your waiver wire all the time.
Right.
I think that's what we got to do.
And especially in that division, they're going to be playing those new quarterbacks twice a year. You got to think, that he's going to be playing whoever's throwing the ball for the Jets twice a year. They're going to be playing
Garoppolo for the first week.
Yeah, they play him in the first 4 weeks, so obviously we're going to play against that new quarterback, not Tom Brady, obviously. And then who's the other team? What am I thinking about?
Blanking out right here. We've got the Patriots, Jets. Is it something?
Oh, yeah. No, it's Miami. So you got Ryan Tannehill. Obviously, that's going to be difficult. Ryan Tannehill's definitely emerged last year. He had his best season. I feel like he's going to even have a better season this year. He's got more weapons around him. Jarvis Landry, second year. They drafted that Devontae Parker, who's hurt right now, but they said that when he was healthy in the OTAs, was doing some great things. Jordan Cameron even. So that Miami team, y'all don't sleep on that Miami team.
All right, so we got the 138th pick coming up, and there's not a lot of options left. Doug Baldwin down here is the number 1 for Seattle. With Jimmy Graham there, could take a lot of the coverage off. Ryan Tannehill's a good backup quarterback. We'll probably end up getting him late.
Yes.
We still need a kicker. I feel like those are our best 2 options right now.
I feel like with this next pick, we got to go. I mean, I feel like either way at 138 or 143, we're going to be able to grab Ryan Tannehill and Steven Gostkowski. As for Gostkowski, I don't know if he's going to be the best kicker this year just because Tom Brady is out for those first 4 games. But the last 3 years, he has been the number 1 kicker. So
yeah. And they might be kicking a lot more field goals with Tom Brady not being there in the first 4 games.
True. So that's another thing about, although he just went. So there goes our plan. So I think we got to go grab Tannehill here. We're able to grab.
I think we can wait on Tannehill for the 143rd. I think we got to go Doug Baldwin.
Oh, you're right, because we've got these auto picks here. Doug Baldwin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Is there anybody else we want to look at real quick just to make sure that we're not missing anybody? Dorial Green Beckham, not saying we're going to draft him, but he could emerge. He's going to be, he had some discipline issues, but he's definitely got the talent. I don't see anybody else that's popping out to me, so I think we're going to go back and grab Doug Baldwin here.
So now all we need is 1 bench player and a kicker. I think we're going to go ahead and take Ryan Tannehill. That's a great number 2.
Right. I mean, Tannehill and Russell Wilson both could have the potential to be top 5 quarterbacks this year, and the fact that we can have both of them and play matchups, and even if one of them gets hurt. So now we're looking at kickers.
And in my opinion, Kenny, you don't want a kicker on your team that you have a potential of starting somebody else, because you don't want to be cheering for your kicker for them to start kicking field goals instead of throwing touchdowns or running the touchdown with your player.
I agree completely.
So we have 1 Baltimore player in Steve Smith that could be playing in our flex. We have a Seattle. We don't want Steven Hauschka. We don't have any Indianapolis players, but Adam Vinatieri just went. Denver wouldn't be a bad pick. We do have Emmanuel Sanders, though. We don't want to do that.
We got Mason Crosby here. We actually do not have any Packer players here.
We also don't have any Dallas players.
And Dan
Bailey is pretty golden.
Yes, Dan Bailey's automatic, obviously. Last year, 25 for 29. I think he had a streak earlier in the year, though. He was
I think he was 17 for 17 before he started missing.
Yeah,
he had a bad little run.
In 1 game, he missed 2, but it ended up not. I think it was against Houston.
Well, and with the 32, 33-yard extra points this year,
yes,
having an automatic kicker like that could help a lot.
Yes, and you don't want. And Crosby, they've got a
cross-beam?
Yeah, cross-beam, yeah. He's got a lot of potential to kick a lot over there, but he's 50-50 a lot of the times. He missed six field goals, and I'm pretty sure
2 extra points from the 2-yard line, not the 15.
And I'm pretty sure some of those missed field goals were within 40 yards. So, and that also goes into the extra point. So Dan Bailey, Mr. Automatic, we're looking at him at this last pick to complete our team.
I think we have a pretty good team, Kenny. I mean, we've got a good run quarterback, with a good backup, in my opinion. Ryan Tannehill is going to have a great year, so we're not hurting on quarterbacks at all. I mean, we've got Le'Veon Bell, who after the first 2 weeks is going to be the best running back in the league, I think, other than AP possibly.
Yes.
Andre Ellington's not. I mean, he's a low end RB2, but we've got Calvin Johnson and Emmanuel Sanders, who are both. Let's go ahead and take Dan Bailey, who are both. I mean, that's a good 1-2 punch for wide receivers. We've got a tight end in Zach Ertz, who I think is going to have a great year.
Yep.
Flex, we can switch out between Chris Ivory, Doug Martin, Devontae Freeman, Steve Smith, Doug Baldwin,
Jarvis Landry. We've got that's what
a lot of options.
Yes, we built that huge flex possibility, and then we've got depth at running back. We've got depth at receiver. The most important part is to have that depth at running back. Now, another thing I want to mention right now, I'm looking at bye weeks. When you're drafting, I know a lot of people look at bye weeks, but you got to think about it. There's going to be so much happening. You don't know who's going to get hurt. You know, you don't want to be subject to just looking at the bye weeks because, yeah, your top 2 running backs could have the same bye week, but you don't know if one of them's going to get hurt. You don't know who's going to be on the waiver wire.
And
at
one
that
week's
point.
not going to make that big of a difference
Exactly.
in a solid team.
Exactly. So, I mean, you can lose that 1 week, but win every other week if you have that 2 good duo. So, we're looking at a good team here.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody, and go follow our Twitter page at PK Football, and we'll see you later.
All right, and good luck, everybody.